Hello, it's Shannon from Awash with Wonder, and I'm joining in with the Speak Up link up again, and this month's theme is truth. So when I saw that theme, I was like, where are we going to start on this one? Because truth is obviously this huge subject, and it's totally subjective. How do we define it? Everyone has their own version of truth, and that's kind of the thing, isn't it? Everyone has to figure out what truth they can live with. But I was thinking about it a little bit more, and I was thinking about thinking and how 99% of my life is spent in my brain. It just is. And that's probably true for you too. And because I think so much, and you think so much, most of the time we're not even aware that we're thinking. It's just happening. And unless you are some kind of meditating master, you don't have a ton of control over those thoughts. And that's okay if most of your thoughts are good. Then that's great. Then you have like this kind of always positive thing going on in your brain. But if your thoughts aren't so great, then you're kind of living with these negative mantras all the time, and you're not noticing it. And our thoughts they influence everything. They influence our experiences. They influence how we see the world. Everything is dependent on the way that we think about it. So we have to be a little bit conscious about what we're thinking about to know if what we're experiencing is true and if our idea of the world is true. But how do we figure that out? How do we get outside of our brain? And the only way that I know how to do that, beyond meditating, which I've never been able to do because it's just really difficult, is by talking to other people. So, you know how when we talk about negative body image, one of like our favorite things to say is like, can you imagine if a friend said the things that you say to yourself to you? You totally lose that friend because that friend is terrible. It's saying awful things to you. So that helps us to see that the things that we say to ourselves aren't great. But what's amazing about that is that we can do that same thing by saying things out loud. So for me, when I have these things that I kind of believe to be true, and I'm like caught up in them, and I'm thinking about them and thinking about them and thinking about them, I don't want to share them because I don't know, they're just so personal, and they kind of make me sad, or they make me feel ashamed, or they make me feel these kind of terrible things. And I've convinced myself that they're true because I've said them to myself so much. But what I've found is that if I force myself to talk about them, if I say them to another person, as soon as the words leave my mouth, I'm like, wait, that's not true. And it doesn't really matter about the other person's response. Although I will say you probably want to have these conversations with someone that you really trust and who is great, not someone who is awful. But as soon as the words leave my mouth, I'm like, wait, that doesn't really make sense, or that's not really true, or I don't really feel that way. And it's crazy that I can have these thoughts that I think are so true, and then as soon as I say them, I don't even identify with them anymore. So I guess like what we have to do to figure out if the things that we think are true is to bounce them off other people. And even if they don't have anything incredibly wise to say, sometimes just the act of saying it is enough for you to realize the value of those thoughts, and whether it's a thought that you really need to identify with or if it's a thought that you can just dismiss. So I think that truth is something that is obviously subjective, but it's also something that we create with other people. So we find the truths that define our lives. But before we can like put all our weight behind those truths and start to live our lives thinking that we're going to identify with it, we need to like bounce it off other people. And the best way to do this is to say the things that you do not want to say, the things that feel super shameful and that you don't want to share, because chances are those things are not true. You just said them so much that they feel true. So I guess like for me moving forward is that I'm not going to identify with anything or let myself believe in something until I've said it to someone else. And I can really see, do those things in the light of day, are they still true? Like, do they still mean the same thing to me when I take them out of the dark recesses of my brain? So yeah, that's my idea of truth. I'll see you next time.